When Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and gave him the message of God, Pharaoh became more arrogant. He said, "I am your greatest lord." But inside Pharaoh's palace, there was a heart that saw the truth. That was Asiya, Pharaoh's wife. She was the same woman who once took baby Moses from the river and raised him with love. Now she had recognized that Moses was truly a prophet of God. When the miracles appeared, the staff turning into a snake, the shining hand, and when the magicians believed, Asiya saw the truth clearly. She said, "I believe in the Lord of Moses and Aaron." This shocked Pharaoh. His own queen now stood against him. He shouted, "In my palace no one can believe in another god except me." He ordered torture for Asiya. She was tied down on the ground under the hot sun and heavy stones were placed on her. But she prayed, "My Lord, build for me a house in paradise. Save me from Pharaoh and his actions, and save me from the wrongdoers." God accepted her prayer. While in pain, she was shown her place in paradise. A smile came to her face, and her soul left peacefully. She became one of the 4 greatest women in history. When Moses heard this, his heart was full of sadness. The woman who saved him as a baby and believed in him was now gone. He prayed, "My Lord, reward her with the best reward." It was a heavy grief, but God gave Moses patience and strength. Pharaoh still refused to believe, so God sent punishments on him and his people. The Nile water turned into blood. Frogs filled their houses and food. Lice and gnats clung to their bodies. Flies swarmed over everything. Their animals became sick and died. Locusts ate their crops. Hail and fire fell from the sky. Then darkness covered the land for days. But every time, Pharaoh begged Moses to pray for relief, and when the punishment was removed, he broke his promise. At last, God told Moses, "Take my people and leave Egypt at night." Moses led the Israelites away. When Pharaoh heard, he gathered his army and chased them. The Israelites reached the sea. In front was water, behind was Pharaoh's army. They cried, "Moses, we are trapped." But Moses said, "My Lord is with me. He will guide me." God told Moses, "Strike the sea with your staff." Moses struck it, and the sea split. The water rose like walls, and a dry path appeared. The Israelites crossed safely. Pharaoh and his army followed, but when they were in the middle, the water crashed back and drowned them. As he sank, Pharaoh shouted, "I believe in the Lord of the children of Israel." But God said, "Now, when before you disobeyed? Today we save only your body to be a sign for others." Pharaoh drowned, his pride destroyed. Moses and his people were free, and the faith of Asiya remained a shining example forever.
In Midian, Moses spent many years. There he married the daughter of Prophet Shuaib, tended sheep, and lived a life of patience and hard work. This was the time when God was preparing him for a great mission. Years passed by. Moses always wondered in his heart, "What is my true destiny? I am a stranger here, yet inside me is a deep pain for my oppressed brothers. The children of Israel are still suffering under Pharaoh's cruelty." One day, Moses was traveling with his wife. It was a cold night. They lost their way in the desert. Suddenly, Moses saw a fire burning in the distance. He said to his wife, "Wait here. I will go to that fire. Perhaps I will bring you some news, or I will bring a burning torch so that you may warm yourselves." Moses walked towards the fire. As he came closer, he was amazed. There was a tree, and from its branches shone a bright flame, yet the tree itself was not burning. He stood in awe, and then suddenly a voice called out, "O Moses, indeed I am your Lord. Remove your sandals, for you are in the sacred valley of Tuwa. I have chosen you. Listen to what is revealed. Indeed, I am Allah. There is no God but me. Worship me and establish prayer to remember me. The hour is coming, and I keep it hidden, so that every soul may be recompensed for its deeds." Moses trembled. Then God asked him, "Moses, what is that in your hand?" He replied, "It is my staff. I lean upon it, I beat down leaves for my sheep, and I have other uses for it." God said, "Throw it down, O Moses." He threw it, and behold, it became a living serpent, slithering swiftly. Moses turned in fear, but the voice said, "Do not be afraid. Take it in your hand, it will return to its former state." Then God gave him another sign. He was told, "Place your hand under your arm. When you draw it out, it will shine brightly, white, without harm." And God said, "These are two signs to take to Pharaoh, for indeed he has become arrogant." Moses said, "My Lord, expand my chest, ease my task, and tie the knot from my tongue so that they may understand my speech, and appoint for me my brother Aaron as a helper." God accepted his prayer. Now look, Moses, once a child whom Pharaoh tried to kill, was returning as a prophet to stand before the very same tyrant. Moses and Aaron entered Pharaoh's court. With dignity and strength, they said, "O Pharaoh, we are messengers from the Lord of the worlds. Release the children of Israel and turn to God." Pharaoh laughed. He said, "Do you not remember, O Moses? You killed a man here once. You are ungrateful." Moses replied, "I did that in ignorance, but my Lord forgave me and made me one of his messengers." Pharaoh asked, "And who is this Lord of yours?" Moses said boldly, "Our Lord is the one who created everything and gave it its form and guidance." Pharaoh gathered his people and declared, "I am your highest Lord." But Moses cast down his staff, and it became a mighty serpent. People were terrified. Then he drew out his hand, and it was shining like lightning. Pharaoh summoned the magicians. He said, "Come, defeat him." They threw down their ropes and staffs, and suddenly they seemed to move like serpents. The people were frightened. Even Moses felt fear within. But God said, "Do not fear, you will be the victor." Moses cast down his staff, and it swallowed everything they had conjured. The magicians fell to the ground in prostration and cried out, "We believe in the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Pharaoh's pride shook, but instead of surrendering, he grew harsher
Musa
in his
was
tyranny.
raised by
He would
Asiya,
not free the children of
the
Israel.
noble wife of
He
Pharaoh.
increased his oppression.
He drank from
But
his
God's
real
plan
mother's
had
milk,
already been
yet
set.
grew up
Moses
under
had
the very
received
roof of
prophethood,
the tyrant.
and the time of liberation was
Picture the
drawing
scene.
near.
Little Musa playing in the courtyards of the palace, golden vessels around him, servants at his call, the luxury and grandeur of Egypt spread before his eyes. But there was a secret hidden from Pharaoh himself. This child, whom he raised as his own, would one day rise to shatter his tyranny. As Musa reached manhood, he became tall, handsome, and strong. He received education and training in the palace, yet Allah placed a unique softness in his heart. He looked at the Israelites crushed under slavery. He saw their pain, their humiliation, their tears, and his heart trembled with compassion. Musa was not like the princes who ignored the suffering of others. In his chest burned a light of justice. Then came the day of trial. Musa had grown into a young man. One afternoon, when the streets were still, he saw a slave from the Israelites struggling against an Egyptian guard. The slave cried for help, and Musa rushed forward. With a single strike of his hand, Musa struck the man down, and the Egyptian fell lifeless to the ground. Musa's heart shook. He had not meant to kill. He only wished to stop the oppression. At once he turned to Allah and prayed, "My Lord, this was from my own soul's weakness. Forgive me." And Allah forgave him. But the secret could not remain hidden for long. The next day, Musa again saw the same Israelite in another quarrel. As Musa tried to intervene, a man came running, breathless, with a warning. "O Musa, the chiefs are plotting against you. They want to kill you. Leave this city at once. I am your sincere well-wisher." Fear gripped Musa, and he fled Egypt. Alone, hungry, thirsty, he wandered through the wilderness, heading towards Madian. For days he traveled with nothing to eat or drink. At times he chewed the leaves of trees. At times he sought shade to rest. But in his heart was the certainty, "My Lord is with me." At last he reached the land of Madian. By a well he found crowds watering their flocks. Among them stood two young women holding their animals back, unable to push through.
Shy and modest, they waited from a distance. Musa stepped forward, watered their flocks, and helped them with ease. The women thanked him, astonished by his kindness, and returned to their home. Exhausted, Musa collapsed under the shade of a tree and whispered a humble prayer. My Lord, truly I am in need of whatever good you send down to me. When the young women returned to their father, Prophet Shuaib, he told him the story. Immediately he said, Call him to me. When Musa arrived, he told his tale, and Shuaib recognized his character. The daughters said, Father, hire him. The best of men you can employ is one who is strong and trustworthy. And so Musa found honor in Madian. He stayed with Shuaib for years, married one of his daughters, and tended his flocks. This was the season of Musa's youth, a time of trials, of patience, of learning, a time when Allah was preparing him for the great mission that lay ahead.
Long ago, Egypt was trembling under the cruelty of Pharaoh. The children of Israel had been enslaved. Their babies were snatched, the tears of mothers flowed, and mourning filled their homes. At that time, a baby was about to be born. This was the very child about whom Pharaoh's priests had foretold that one day he would bring an end to Pharaoh's kingdom. Pharaoh was terrified. He commanded, Kill every newborn boy of the Israelites, but let their girls live. And so rivers of blood began to flow. But look how the power of Allah works. There was a mother. She held her baby in her arms, and her heart was fear, and in her heart was love. She knew that if Pharaoh's soldiers saw him, her precious child would be killed. Her heart trembled, tears flowed from her eyes, but Allah inspired her. Nurse your child, and when you fear for him, cast him into the river. We will return him to you and make him one of the messengers. So, in the darkness of the night, she prepared a basket. She placed little Musa inside it. She kissed his cheeks one last time, and with prayer she set the basket upon the waves of the Nile. Her eyes kept flowing with tears, her hands kept shaking, but her faith was strong. My Lord is the protector. The basket floated on the water until it reached the bank of the palace. There, Pharaoh's wife Asiya was sitting. When she opened the basket, a little child was smiling inside. Love awakened in her heart. She said, This child is the comfort of my eyes. Do not kill him. He will benefit us, or we may adopt him as a son. What a scene it was! On one side, Pharaoh's soldiers were slaughtering thousands of infants, and on the other side, Allah was giving Musa protection inside Pharaoh's very own home. But the child was crying. He would not accept the milk of any woman. The people of the palace were troubled, and then came Musa's sister, who had been watching from afar by her mother's command. She stepped forward and said, Shall I show you a woman who can nurse this child with love? That woman was none other than Musa's own mother. And so Musa was returned into his mother's lap. The mother's heart overflowed with joy. She embraced her son once again. Allah fulfilled his promise. Musa remained safe. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, wearing royal clothes, eating royal food. Yet Allah had placed light within his heart. And when the time came, that very child, the one who had been set afloat in the river, rose up as a prophet of Allah and stood to challenge the tyrant Pharaoh. This story tells us, even if the most powerful king in the world desires to destroy someone, he cannot stop the will of Allah.